Thorn and Luna were sitting in their accustomed booth at Jack's, while Dusk was still hard at work in the kitchen, making the fish sandwich and tater tots for a customer had requested. She thankfully already brought out Thorn and Luna's meals, but one more had slipped through while she was still on her shift. Admittedly, she wasn't really in a working mood at all today, or at least not for that kind of work. She was feeling excited to talk about the music video with Thorn and Luna. It was time to get the ball rolling with that, so things could move on forward. Dusk had heard the door open and a family consisting of 2 adults and 2 children walked in. At first she felt a little worried that she was going to have to serve them and add 20 minutes to her shift, but she promptly realized that she was still privileged to only work 20 minutes over her normal shift amount. Since many people had work long hours of overtime, compared to Dusk's 4 hours per day, 20 minutes was measly as summoned time in hindsight. "I'll get that one, Dusk. Feel free to clock out once you've served that woman her sandwich," Jack informed. Dusk was happy to have such an amazing, thoughtful boss like Jack. "Thanks, Jack," Dusk appreciated. She warmed up the bun for the fish sandwich and put it on the plate. Then she served up all 11 tater tots on the plate, plopped some tartar sauce on the bun, and added a slice of cheese. She promptly hurried the sandwich out to the woman. "Thank you, dear." The old woman smiled as she took a bite of the sandwich. "Very good. Just the right amount of tartar sauce. Great work." "Thanks," Dusk smiled. It was rare for her to receive compliments, so she was already appreciative when she did. She headed for the kitchen to remove her apron, and then promptly head over to the booth where Thorn and Luna were sitting. "Long shift today, huh?" Luna asked. "Yeah, sorry," Dusk nodded. "Somebody came in after I served your meals. I'm already ready to talk about the video now." "Great," Thorn responded. "I've been thinking about it. I really like the idea about representing the perspective of a pipeline issue somehow in our video, though telling a story about some aspect of a protest." "I like the idea too," Dusk agreed. "Maybe we could do a reenactment of the pipeline protest. From not the day Mayor Corey came in and frickin' ruined everything." "It's a good concept, but it's going to fall into the same issue we had before," Luna pointed out. "We need to demonstrate to people that we aren't just protesting because we're kids and we think that it's a rebellious thing to do. I feel like we gotta show some people why we're so fired up." "Luna's right. It's gotta be more metaphorical, rather than showing some actual protest," Thorn agreed. "Maybe we could have an explanation at the beginning of the video, telling people what they're so fired up about?" Dusk suggested. "Good idea, but I think it'd be more impactful if we show it, rather than told it," Luna stated. "I don't know how we'd show it, but it'd be so much powerful if we just showed people exactly what would happen if the pipeline was put in. People may think the protesters are just for rebellious kids, but what if we actually showed them why we're so upset?" Thorn suggested. "Actually, that'd be wicked," Dusk agreed. "Most people didn't think about the impact a pipeline could have, but I bet they'd be horrified when they actually saw what it'd do." "Well, I don't know if that would be possible, but maybe there's a way we could get a footage of another pipeline that caused damage to the environment. It requires some research, though," Thorn replied. "Gus seems to be all whiz at that editing stuff, so bet he know," Dusk said. "We should probably do some more research before our meeting with Gus on Thursday," Luna suggested. "Do you guys want to head to the library after we finish lunch?" Dusk felt a seed of an idea grow in her mind. "Actually, I've got a better idea. Dawn works at the bookstore. We could go check on her and see if there are any books that give us some information on oil pipelines." Thorn didn't look overactly enthused by this idea, but she shrugged and responded, "Yeah, that's not a bad thought. Let's do it." Dusk was really hopeful that Dawn would be able to help them out. Surely Dawn would be super excited about to contribute to the band's music video, even if it was just provided some helpful information that would help them finally film the video. Thorn had to open the door to the bookstore for Luna and Dusk. They both looked around. Similarly to Dusk a few days ago, she hadn't been to this bookstore in years. "Why don't we come here often?" Luna remarked. "This seems like a really nice place." You've gotten the one convenient detail. Reading is extremely expensive habit, Thorn dryly said. Dusk saw Dawn walk out of the corner at the eye of the cash register, just finishing up helping a customer check out. Once the customer had finished the purchase and walked away, Dusk waved at Dawn. Hey, Dawn, Dusk greeted. Oh, hey, Dawn replied enthusiastically, with a hint of confusion in her voice. What are you guys doing here? We came here to ask you a question, Thorn clarified. We're doing some research on that pipeline, and we were wondering if you know how many books that have talked about the other pipelines that were damaging to the environment. They'd probably be environmental section. I think I can help you look, Dawn offered. Thanks, Thorn smiled. So how's your day been? Dusk inquired. Oh, same old, Dawn sighed as she led the girls to the environmental section, which was directly adjacent to the cash register. The environmental section was relatively small, just a couple rows of books. Dusk presumed that it wasn't the most popular genre, so she wasn't too surprised about what the limited section they had. She was still hopeful that there'll be at least something to give some sort of lead. Let's see. Natural disasters, surprising history of frogs, weirdest weather patterns. Dawn read off the titles. I'm not seeing anything, Luna said, doing a scan of the shelf herself. Maybe that natural disasters book might have something, Dusk pointed out. Thorn picked up the book from the shelf and turned to the table of contents. Let's see. Tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, violent hail. Oh, this could be interesting. Man-made disasters. Thorn then turned up to the chapter and began skimming through it, but didn't say anything for a second. Her eyes stayed laser-focused on reading that chapter for a decent period of time. But once she'd gotten towards the end of the book, her eyes lit up for a moment, but her excited look quickly waned. What did you find? Dusk eagerly inquired. I found something on oil pipelines, but it was the one that stopped working because of a hailstorm. There's nothing about pipelines harming the environment, Thorn said, her tone sounding defeated. I've got another idea, Luna informed. Dusk waited for a moment, but Luna didn't elaborate further. Well, are you going to tell us or make us ask you? Sorry, Luna said with a laugh. I'll tell you when we get home. Oh, I see how it is, Dawn teased. You guys don't trust outsiders. Is there something related to the band? Yeah, I'm still thinking about the idea, Luna vaguely clarified. Thanks so much for your help, although we'll let you get back to work. Yeah, just what I wanted. Dawn rolled her eyes. Sorry I couldn't help, but I'll see you at the meeting on Friday, Dusk? Of course, Dusk agreed. See you later. Thorn, Luna, and Dusk headed out of the bookstore and then headed back to the soccer mom van. Dusk didn't expect it, but Luna actually immediately spoke up and elaborated her idea. Alright, so I was thinking, this pipeline stretches quite a long distance beyond Oak Haven. I wonder if we could ask Mayor Corey if he knows anything about the pipelines that has damaged the environment in other cities. Luna suggested. Oh, so Dawn was right. You were trying to hide it from her, Dusk called out. Only because she seems to have a certain hatred for Mayor Corey. I didn't want her to get in our faces again about how Mayor Corey's an unfit mayor, Luna defended. Besides, we're allowed to have some secrets from the band being told. Her being friends with you doesn't mean she gets a free pass to know all of our secrets about our upcoming projects. I agree. It was best not to tell her, Thorn responded. Asking Mayor Corey's an amazing idea. Who knows if he'll have any information, but it's worth a try, I guess. Admittedly, Dusk didn't know how she would have explained the fraternizing with Mayor Corey to Dawn, so on hindsight she realized it's probably better that Luna didn't tell her. Great, Luna smiled. We can all call him tomorrow then. No need. Mayor Corey comes to Jack's around 8 every morning for a cup of coffee, Dusk shared. I can ask him then. It'll be natural to do it that way, instead of calling him out of the blue. Actually, that's a great idea, Thorn smiled. I'll be really interested to see what he says. Jack's was quite busy this morning. The morning crowd was even worse than usual, giving Dusk an appreciation of how clever the phrase morning rush was as she scurried around the kitchen, trying to put a pot of coffee on. rushing to butter the toast to bagels and making some pancakes on the grill. An alarm went off in Dusk's head when she smelled something burning. "Shit!" Dusk exclaimed. She ran over to flip the pancakes. A quick look showed Dusk that she burned one side of them to a crisp. Frustratedly, she threw the 2 crisps of cakes in the garbage and then put some more batter on the pancake griddle. "Good morning, Jack," Dusk heard a familiar voice greet the restaurant owner. She quickly realized it was the mayor, meaning she needed to get moving. She promptly hurried out the kitchen to attend to the mayor. "Hey, Mayor Corey," Dusk greeted. "Just the usual this morning?" "Yes, thank you, Dusk," the mayor said with a smile. Dusk quickly rushed to the kitchen to get Mayor Corey his typical order, which was a cup of coffee with 2 French vanilla creamers and a sugar packet. Dusk poured the cup of Joe and took it out of the sugar packet. But when looking for the creamer containers, she realized they were all out of vanilla. She figured he wouldn't want his coffee black, so she debated whether to give him caramel or the original. She decided to go with presumably more flavorful option, which was caramel, rather than putting it in a cup for him like she usually did. She left the creamer containers on the side in case the caramel was objections for him for any reasons. "We're all out of French vanilla. Is caramel okay?" Dusk informed, handing a cup to the mayor as she walked out of the kitchen. "That'll be just fine, my dear," Mayor Corey said as he took the cup from Dusk. Dusk was feeling a bit nervous now. She had promised Thorn and Luna she asked about a pipeline for the music video, but wasn't so sure if to shift the conversation to that in a natural way. She supposed she'd just have to come out and say it, and hope that it didn't come out as awkward. "By the way, I was curious about something that we were talking about the other day. How many other cities has that pipeline gone through?" Mayor Corey looked a bit surprised, causing Dusk's anxiety to rise a little. Admittedly, she was surprised that she was anxious. She didn't have anything to lose. If her parents found out that she was involved in the protest, it would just reinforce them that Dusk was wasting her life doing various things, which Dusk didn't practically give a shit about. She knew that she was never going to please her parents, so that wasn't something new to be anxious about. "Just a few, I believe. It starts in Auburn, goes through Brimfield and Holland," Mayor Corey informed. "Why do you ask?" Dusk intensely panicked a bit. She had expected the mayor to inquire about why she was asking, but she had no response prepared. Luna was just worried because the protesters told her some stuff about how the pipeline could blow up. Mayor Corey shook his head and laughed joyfully. "I wouldn't pay too much attention to those protesters. Yes, we have to make the park smaller to accommodate the pipeline, and we'll have to knock some trees down. However, the company has confirmed that it's completely safe. If it makes you any better, they're also running the pipeline through Kaysel Park in Auburn. And from what I hear, the construction that has gone excellently. Please assure Luna that there will be no issues with the pipeline blowing up in the park." "Yeah, that's what I told her too," Dusk nodded, pretending that this was all common sense to avoid certain embarrassment. Now that the mayor's confirmed it, she'll have to believe me. "Well, I'm glad I could be of service," Mayor Corey said with a chuckle, sipping his coffee. This caramel creamer's really good. I may have to switch to this. Anyway, have a great day, Dusk." "You too," Dusk said, breathing a sigh of relief. Even though the awkward situation was over, she still felt embarrassed about her extremely hastily lie. She was a little down since it didn't had provided them with any new leads. She admittedly wasn't sure whether to believe the mayor or not about the pipelines being safe. As much as she loathed him allowing his company to build their pipeline in the middle of the park, and made fun of the mayor to gain respect for her new friends, all part of her still did like and respected Mayor Corey. It had been another long day at work. The lunch rush had been extremely busy today, which Dusk presumed was because everyone was trying to get out about before the winter freezes hit. She knew that Jack's typically quiet down a bit in December, but she was admittedly looking forward when she needed a bit of a break. Luna and Thorn had brought out their own sent lunches today, since sometimes they did so they weren't eaten out so frequently. Thorn had nearly finished her turkey sandwich now, whereas Luna was still grazing on her salad that she brought. Thankfully, Jack didn't mind them bringing their own food to his restaurant, given that Dusk worked there. Throughout her shift, Dusk had been thinking about what she wanted to do this afternoon, since the music was spit on standstill. After some thought, she realized that it might have been a nice gesture to held over to the bookstore and visit Dawn at work. You guys go ahead and take the van home, Dusk informed. I'm gonna go hang out with Dawn at the bookstore. Doesn't she have to work? Luna inquired. Yeah, but she hates work, so I thought I'd give her some company. Maybe I'll grab a coffee or something from that little coffee shop inside. Dusk shrugged. I think I'm gonna go to the arcade. I haven't been there in a while, and I could use an excuse to unwind, Thorne informed. Want me to pick you up on the way home? No, I'm good. I'm not sure when I'll be home, Dusk informed. She finished up the last bite of ham and cheese sandwich she made for herself. The blonde picked up the teal plates that she used for the sandwich, and then headed back to the kitchen. I'm headed out for the day, Jack, Dusk informed. See you later. See you tomorrow, Dusk, Jack waved. All right, I'm headed over, Dusk said as she walked past Thorne and Luna's booth, which they were still sitting in, which Luna finished her lunch. Have a good time, Thorne well wished. The bookstore was about a mile or so from Jack's, so she didn't mind the walk that much. It was allowed her to get some exercise, and she supposed it was probably one of her last opportunities to do this. Soon the weather would become grizzly enough that mile walk could be extremely unpleasant. Dusk headed to the bookstore and planned to head over to the coffee shop to grab a cup of coffee prior to greeting Dawn. Dawn was surprised when she saw Dusk at sitting in one of the metal coffee shop chairs, sipping an all ice-cold brew herself. She was reading a book on the history of rock. Oh, hey, Dusk greeted. I wouldn't have expected to see you there. I could say the same for you, Dawn chuckled. Yeah, I thought I stopped over here after my shift just for something to do, Dusk shrugged. I'm just all stocked on shelves early today, so I'm just hanging out, Dawn explained. There wasn't really pretty much anything else for me to do. Yeah, just one of those boring Wednesday afternoons, Dusk laminated. Don't you girls like writing music in the afternoons? I thought you said you worked the morning at Jack's and then wrote all afternoon. It's Jack's, not Jake's, Dusk corrected. And yeah, we used to. Like I said, we're kind of standstill right now and until we get that music video off the ground. We've got to talk to our manager tomorrow, since there's not much we can do until then. Oh God, you've got one of those managers that make you tell him everything? Dawn said. That sucks, I'm sorry. Oh no, he's great. We've just got to ask him advice about what to do with our second video. Dusk felt a little comfortable sharing that piece of information, since she already told Dawn about the second video, who didn't feel like revealed any of that band's secret. Oh well, that's good, Dawn nodded. What are you guys thinking about doing? Crap, now Dusk had to give out more details. She didn't want Dawn to think there were some second-class band members who just couldn't let her friends in on their own secrets. I think Thorne and Luna would be mad if I ruined the surprise, so I'll just say it's about the environment. Dusk felt like the video being about the environment was safe enough detail to share, since it was kind of implied the title. Nice. I hope it's more edgy and dramatic than your first single, Dawn replied. What do you mean? Dusk asked, confused by what her friends meant. Well, your first single was good, but in my opinion you've got to put out something that packs a punch. Saying that you're going to put a spell on people is cute and all, but you've got to put a little spice in your music if you want to keep people interested. Something edgy, controversial, or a piece of juicy drama, Dawn clarified. I'm sorry, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I'm just trying to provide a different perspective. Oh no, you're good, Dusk reassured, although admittedly Dawn's comments kinda hurt. She thought the music video was badass, as to be called cute, really hit Dusk's ego on the wrong way. Thanks for the feedback. I think you'll like what we have coming. Dusk immediately had no idea there was validity in her own comment, but given about the protest, she had hoped the music video would be edgy and dramatic enough for Dawn. Oakhaven had been lucky to escape the typical cold November weather, but it appeared that her luck was finally up. The weather was extremely chilly today, with highs approaching a freezing temperatures. The high winds couldn't exactly help either. All three girls wore their winter jackets as they headed to Gus's office for their usual Thursday meeting. I feel dumb for not going into another meeting with Gus without having a plan, Dusk laminated. We're not going to completely planless. We know what we want for the music video, which I argue is pretty much a big accomplishment, Thorn rebuked. We just don't know how to navigate showing people. It's just something we could check on Gus. I actually say this is prepared we have been in a long while, Luna remarked. Yeah, I guess so, Dusk nodded, still not fully convinced. She supposed Luna did have a point of how they had a roadmap, of how they want to approach the music video. But they still wish they were fully prepared. It just feels like it's taken forever. It wasn't like this when they did their first album. Gus's door was not only open today, but appeared to have overheard Dusk's remark. Sometimes you just have to spend a little time on things to make them as amazing as they can be, Gus commented. Don't be too hard on yourself, Dusk. I'm sure whatever you girls come up with is great. We have a concept, Luna shared. We're just not sure about one detail. Based on Dusk's comment, I expect you have already figured out a bit of the concept. Figuring out nearly the entire concept week is still quite impressive. Even if you have a deal and you haven't worked out. What did you come up with? Gus inquired. Well, we were thinking how some people think protesting is just something that kids like to be rebellious. We believe it'd be more powerful if we could have a representation in our video showing exactly why we're upset about the protest. Thorn explained. Yeah, if the video just shows up as protesting, lots of people are going to shrug us off as just that construction worker guy did at the protest, Dusk argued. We've pretty much got to give them the bird's eye view of what we're worried what will happen. We just don't know what to show. We need to show some footage of a pipeline destroying the environment, but we have no idea where to get that, Luna replied. I really like the idea, girls, Gus complimented. I have a couple suggestions, as well as a cautionary statement. Dusk tensed up a bit when he said caution. She wondered if perhaps their idea was poor and not developed enough. In my professional opinion, I think you could go on a couple of ways with this. We could use some stock footage from the explosion, or you could take some of the unique route. I have a friend who lives in Auburn, and ironically we're discussing the pipelines the other day. Apparently they're ruining the pipeline with a nature trail. Despite the much controversy, they began construction this past week. I could loan you girls a camera from the studio, and you could just drive to Auburn for yourself and take some footage. I unfortunately won't be able to come with, since I'm dreadfully busy with, Gus paused to shudder, a monthly budget meeting. However, if you get some footage you liked, perhaps we could schedule another date to return to Auburn and film the rest of the video. Whoa, I like that video idea, Thorn said in awe. Yeah, we make the video so realistic, Luna added. What's the cautionary statement? Dusk asked, still fixated on the idea. It's a great what you girls are doing so focused on what others we think. But you have to remember that your music is art, and what could represent your feelings. Just like in real life, not everybody will agree with your respect or feelings, but your art will always be a representation of how you feel. Don't water it down with second guess yourself. People who don't care about you anyway. Gus' advice. Of course you wouldn't want to make bores of yourselves, but I do have a solid idea here, and it's extremely relevant. I especially am directing this advice towards you, Dusk. Sometimes we're on our own worst critics. Dusk immediately didn't know what to respond to Gus's remark, even if she did like the beginning of it. She definitely had been hard on herself recently, but she felt her self-criticism was incredibly justified. The band's creative process just still didn't have the same excitement or energy from that used to Dusk. Everything used to move along freely, and the group used to have such a rhythmic for their creative planning, and now everything like this had just moved at this glacial pace. She couldn't believe that she took several weeks just to come up with the idea for the music video. Don't worry, I'm fine, Dusk assured, finally getting the right words. I hope so, Gus remarked. seeming like he was still worried about her. Now I want to give you all the chart update, although it's not very much of one of those. You are at number 135 now, so you're only spot above where you were last week. No stations added your song this week. I imagine your song's performance will stay stagnant until you put out your music video. Now, is there anything you want to chat about today, girls? Or any way I can help you with the music video? I can't think of anything else. Thorn shook her head. Thanks for your help. When can we have the cameras? Luna inquired. Oh, right. Gus typed a bit on his computer and turned to his computer screen so the girls can see it. Looks like your camera is rented out for the rest of the day, but you'd be free to have it on Monday morning or afternoon. I know you girls work in the mornings, so does it work for you to put you down in the afternoon? That would work. Thorn nodded. When do we need to bring it back? Well, typically we say at 6 p.m., although I would think it would give you a 45-minute drive each way from there, Gus replied. If you could get it back here by 6, great. If not, I trust you girls and you could bring it back here on Monday morning on your way to work. Sounds great. We'll hopefully get it back by then, since I have another commitment at 8, Dusk said, referring to the songwriters' meeting. Thanks so much for trusting us, Luna chimed in. Of course, girls. I hope you find something amazing with that footage to show the world, Gus smiled. The girls arrived again at Decade Records, although it immediately felt weird to Dusk to be there on a Friday afternoon. It's pretty wild that they have free access to a camera. I mean, if they wanted to go to the pond and film some ducks one day, they could just rent the camera, Thorn remarked whimsically. I doubt they let us film ducks. Dusk rolled her eyes. I was exaggerating for the comedic effect. My actual point is just crazy. We have free access to this kind of professional equipment. I know we're just getting started in the musical business, but we're so lucky to have an incredible manager like Gus, Thorn complimented. Speaking of Gus, Dusk was surprised to see him walk out of the record studios holding a camera. She found it really sweet of it to be taken out of his day to bring the camera to them. He just seemed at having a bit of trouble, as he was walking quite slow. Luna rolled down her window to take the camera. You okay, Gus? Yes, it's just dreadfully heavy, Gus laminated. You girls have fun today. I'll be here till 6, but if you don't get it back by then, feel free to bring it back on Monday. Nobody rents these on weekends, so as long as you get it back by 8, it should be fine. Thanks, Gus, you're the best, Thorn complimented, as Luna rolled up the windows. See a case in point. On the trip to Auburn had been absolutely beautiful. Much of the drive was on the highway, bordering the woods, and the trees were all currently at their prettiest stage of the season. Oakhaven and surrounding areas were a huge tourist destination due to the breathtaking autumn scenery. She had heard from the other adults in town that Oakhaven area had an unbeatable autumn view. Now that Dusk had several other states to think of the tour, thanks to the tour, she could truly say Massachusetts' autumn scenery was no other. The colors on the leaves had made the trees look so elegant that they swayed in the wind from the light autumn breeze. This is absolutely beautiful, Luna said, just as pretty as Oakhaven. Thorn stared out the window blissfully, taking in all the beauty as Dusk drove. The black-haired goth's eyes looked in whimsically as if she'd been daydreaming. If we strike big one day in the music business, would you guys want to stay in Oakhaven? Oh God, no, Dusk immediately replied. I'd move to a big city, like maybe Salem. I prefer to stay here personally, Luna disagreed. I'd miss my family too much if I went far away. Besides, I like Oakhaven. It's quiet and quaint. I wouldn't be so opposed to anything, but I say I lean towards what Luna said. I'd really miss my dad if I didn't see him often. I prefer smaller, medium-sized towns anyway. They're more cozy than a noisy big city. But a big city is where everything happens. Nothing really happens here except for the Autumn Fest, Dusk laminated. She couldn't imagine wasting the rest of her life in Oakhaven. I kind of like the small-town atmosphere anyways. Everybody knows everybody, and it's a friendly environment, Thorn responded. Yeah, I still prefer to live in a big city. Sure, you wouldn't know everybody, but you could live hell of a lot more experiences than you could in Oakhaven, Dusk said, realizing she was getting distracted, was possibly about to miss the turn. You said Castle Park, right? Yep, Luna nodded. Well, in that case, you better hang on, Dusk said as she narrowly swerving the soccer mom into the parking lot for the park, just before she could have missed the turn. Jesus, Dusk, Thorn exclaimed, as the seatbelt stopped her from tumbling to the other side of the back seat. Sorry, Dusk exasperately replied, lots of frustration in her voice, although that anger mainly directed towards herself for being stupid enough to almost miss the turn. A black car who she apparently almost cut off honked at her as she strained her vehicle's wheels from the turn. Sorry, Dusk snapped again. This is so pretty looking, Luna commented, glancing out the window as Dusk pulled into the parking spot. This is where the pipeline's going in? Yep, at least that's what's according to Mayor Corey, Dusk nodded. It doesn't look like there's any other work being done here, Thorn remarked, as she got out of the soccer mom van and stretched out a bit. Dusk and Luna quickly followed her out of the vehicle, with Luna taking the camera from the back seat. If they were working, the construction workers might be on break, Luna remarked. Dusk's eye then caught on the blue sign, reading Nature Trail. Hey, that's where the nature trail's over there. We should check it out, Thorn remarked. Maybe we'll run into somebody who knows if the construction has started yet. Mayor Corey said it had, but he could have been guessed I could have been wrong. Dusk shrugged. The girls admired the beautiful scenery of red, yellow, and orange trees bordering the small pond as they walked through the paved trail in the woods. Hey, it looks like an opening for the trees is there, Luna pointed out. Do you want to go down and look at the pond for a moment? Sure, Dusk agreed. Although she was adamant about moving to a big city, she would miss the beautiful trees around Massachusetts. Perhaps that she did move someday, she wanted to live in Salem, so she could have the best of both worlds. Thorn was the first to walk down the opening. Dusk was feeling quite peaceful when she headed for the opening, until she heard Thorn shout, "Oh my God, this is horrible!" Thorn screamed. Luna and Dusk quickly joined in to see what Thorn could see would possibly be so awful. But when Dusk saw the reason for her shouting, she almost wished she hadn't. The sight almost made her sick to her stomach, if she were being honest, which was extremely rare for Dusk. The pond's water was polluted and black. So many animals were lying dead on the surface of the water and the woods. Not only were the large group of fish floating at the top of the pond, but there were also a family of dead beavers lying lifeless due to the toxic water. Quite a few dead rabbits were quite scattered around the area, as well as numerous ducks, chipmunks, and squirrels. A couple of them were alive and twitching. Perhaps all the surprising them was a dead doe laying on the water, who apparently died from drinking the polluted water. This is when Dusk realized the opening was not the natural opening. It was clearly made by the construction workers, who had cut down all the trees in the area, only mangled stumps remaining. Luna promptly turned on the camera and began filming all of this. "This is horrific!" Thorn cried. "If only the people could see what an atrocity this is. No one would ever support this pipeline." Dusk didn't have any words for what she was seeing. Even if she didn't agree, she could understand how people would shrug off a few dead animal deaths or ecosystem of animals being poisoned with the sake of process. However, there were enough dead animals here to fill a graveyard, and the amount of illegal violations that the construction work was being done here was clearly off the charts. Prior to coming here, Dusk immediately not confident that the large audience would resonate their environment, message or not. But after seeing this, she was more than convinced. The world needed this to see it. The girls had gotten back to Oakhaven around 7:45. It was a tad later than expected, but she knew Gus wouldn't mind much if they had just brought the camera back on Monday. Dusk was just thankful they got back in time for the songwriters' meeting. If she would have raised hell if they didn't. As being involved in the songwriting group as possible had been extremely important to her lately. Dusk had dropped out Thorn and Luna at home and drove the soccer mom van back to the park on her own. Their drive there home had been quite somber after what they had seen, both of what caused a horrible sight, and because they feared that some would happen in Oakhaven. Oakhaven's park had been a rotoburst of the wildlife, and it would be horrible if the park got turned into a carnage of walking trail in Auburn's park had become. Dusk glanced at the clock and realized it was 8:04. Not great. She meant she'd be several minutes late, but she supposed she could have missed the meeting entirely. She drove 10 miles over to that speed limit to try and get to the park faster. She knew it wasn't a good idea to do that, especially given the cop had just stopped her a few months back from making a U-turn at a traffic light. Still, she paid it off quite a bit, as she was able to get away with it, so Dusk took the risk. Dusk drove to the park at 8:06. She promptly pulled into the parking spot, got out of the vehicle as fast as she could, and booked it to the center of the park, where she saw that everyone was gathered. The autumn leaves glow and now, and I know, Dusk heard Jonathan recite the last part of his poem. Sorry I'm late, Dusk panted, momentarily from sprinting. I got caught up with something in the band. No worries, Dawn exclaimed. I was just starting to think you weren't going to show up. I'm so glad you were able to make it. We're just sharing what we wrote this week. I'm excited to share this past week. I wrote a song about my frustration towards my dad not accepting my songwriting career. So I sang out the standout line, Dad, don't you know my following my passion? When I say it's a waste, you look like an ass, man. That's clever, Kelsey laughed. Dusk quite frankly agreed. She found the concept of Dawn's song quite reliable. I wrote a song about my extremely sense of fashion this week, and it starts by Lucius hair, beautiful eyes, and sexy-ass dress you can't hang with. If you don't know fashion, honey, 'cause you're a mess. Dusk tried not to cringe at Kelsey's atrocious writing skills. However, as much as Dusk didn't care for the lyrics, she had to admit they were quite right fit with all the other ridiculous pop songs of the day, which only to sprout out flirtatious nonsense. I finished up that song about my high school ex, Dayton revealed. Spill the details, Dayton, Dusk, Dawn excitedly said. What's the lyric? Hard to choose, but I have to say my favorite is, You wrecked my heart, Adam, but now I've wrecked yours, turtle dove. You can't go to sleep without thinking my love, Dayton read. I wrote another awesome rap about the fight my girlfriend and I had, Brett excitedly reported, as he began rapping. You got my heart in the cage, you rattled that shit. You like playing games? Well, bitch, we're playing tonight, battleship. Dusk immediately wasn't so sure if he was done yet, but Ava apparently thought so, as she began sharing her own songwriting this week. Dusk was extremely relieved that she did, as she wasn't so sure if she could take any more of Brett's dumpster tier rapping. I had quite a week this week, Ava admitted. I didn't have a lot of time, so I revised a few lines, and I wasn't fully satisfied with Fever, which I wrote last week. Well, hopefully you'll have more time to write this week, Dayton replied. Dusk hated the hint of pressure that was present in her remark. Dusk hadn't thought about it prior to the moment, but she realized that she had no idea what to report to these people. She decided to take the route of being vague, since she knew that Thorne and Luna would be upset if she shared anything about their music video. I've been working on a new project with the band, Dusk informed. It's a secret though, so I can't share much. By secret, do you mean you didn't write again this week? Dayton teased. His remarks were playful, but there was also some peer pressure towards her tone. Dusk was extremely conflicted about saying anything more, but she felt like she had to do. These people were dedicated writers, and by this far she told them nothing about anything that was in the band that was going. She wanted to at least give them a tad bit of something, to prove that she was a serious songwriter and not just some slacker wannabe. Well, I'm serious about it all being a secret, so don't tell everybody but, Dusk forewarned, pausing for a moment due to the fact that she was slightly conflicted whether to share the band's secret or not. At this point, there was no going back. If she cropped out that say she didn't, that what she had started, The group would think she was a faker for sure. We started filming our second video today, and it's wicked. I want to keep this mostly a surprise, so I'll just say this one's pretty risque. We're going to push a controversial agenda with the video. So that's why you were asking questions about the pipeline the other day? You're going to make your music video about the protest? Dawn exclaimed, causing Dusk to feel anxious. She hadn't intended to reveal that much to these people, but now she felt forced to confirming it. If Dusk said anything about what the band was doing in secret, these people would lose interest in her. She didn't want to make them think that she wasn't doing anything new, and she was just causing the jest of the guise of formerly having a song on the radio as a reason for belonging in this group. Yep, it is, Dusk nodded. The group had a shocked reaction. It was a mix between some people gasping and others exclaiming how cool it was. Even though Thorn and Luna had been overly cautious about this, it was Dusk's band too. She trusted these folks not to spread her secret around. Dusk knew that Thorn and Luna would be mad if they ever found out, so she just have to hope that they never know about their secret.